there would seem to be a disconnect between continuous deployment and the sort of thoughtful and systematic analysis that's needed when you really want to get some insight. How have you addressed that at Etsy?
Sure. Well, I would say that, to do continuous deployment really well, it has to be systematic. Number one is you have to monitor all your systems and have like a really good idea of like what exactly is going on at any point. So when you actually deploy some code, you can actually see if there's any changes. But in terms of like deep analysis and actually like trying to figure out like what is the intent or engagement level and things like that, I think one of the main differences is that we're kind of slicing these things a little bit differently. Instead of looking at like just discrete events like, like web pages or requests and things like that, we actually want to bucket it into like a visit or a user. So we actually want to see like what actually this visit, what they ended up doing actually. So we want to kind of slice them a little bit differently. And it's easy to do because once you start collecting the data, you've already set yourself up to kind of do the next step of going along with that.
Now, what are the keys to evaluating an experiment amidst a continuous environment? I mean, where should somebody get started with something like that?
I think the most important thing to do this is to kind of make sure that you're actually tracking all information for every single variant in an A/B test, right? So the key is basically not just tracking like what someone actually sees during like that specific test, but later on down the line, you want to slice every single metric by every single variant. This way you can compare and contrast later on.
So what types of things can you accomplish when you're continuous and systematic? I mean, is there a major breakthrough that can come from that?
Yeah, there's a couple of good things. And the first thing is that you can kind of evaluate your experiment and react, right? So you can see something happening and then you can change it. And also, people that look at data, we look at data all the time. We always seem to forget that we can go in and add more data, right? So we're doing an analysis and we say, oh, we really need this really crucial piece of information. We actually just go and add it, and the next day we come in, we actually have that information. So that's really, really useful.
So are you adding it at that point, or historically, can you go back and say, well, we've been gathering that anyway, so we can go and get it?
You can add it at that point.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So last question for you. Now, you built a tool for deep analytics. Is that correct?
Yes.
How are the insights from that tool spread across the company?
Sure. So we actually have another tool, which is a launch calendar. And this is basically a really great entry point into doing experiments. So anytime we do a launch at Etsy, someone goes to this launch calendar and fills out this form that says, like, what are you launching and what are the effects? And it's a really great way to kind of like, it's an entry point into like actually looking at this experiment, right? So we have this launch calendar, and basically anyone in the company can go and look at it and see what's launching, and we get emails every day that says what's launching, and also like a link to actually how the experiment is actually doing.
Is that a dashboard? Is the calendar sort of a dashboard, or is it a version of something like that?
It's kind of it's not really a dashboard. It's kind of just like a calendar, like this is launching, and then when you click on each experiment, there's a dashboard for each experiment.
So it's kind of an access point for everybody. Is
Yes.
that right? Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for being with us. Appreciate you taking the time.
Yep.